Modern myth-making, how we create stories every day. Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners and fellow Muslim filmmakers. Welcome to the next episode in our series exploring storytelling through an Islamic lens. Today, we're examining a fascinating topic that affects all of us as creators and consumers of media: the concept of modern myth-making and how it shapes our understanding of the world. When you hear the word myth, what comes to mind? Ancient Greek stories of gods and heroes, tales from pre-Islamic Arabia. While these traditional myths are important to understand, today we'll explore how myth-making is actually something we all participate in every day, and how Muslim filmmakers can engage with this reality in meaningful, purposeful ways. Defining myth in a modern context. Traditionally, myths are seen as ancient stories explaining the world's origins or natural phenomena. However, many scholars argue that myth can also mean any narrative or belief system that helps people make sense of their world, shape identities, or explain events. The French philosopher Roland Barthes argued in his 1957 book Mythologies that myths aren't just ancient stories, but everyday narratives and symbols that shape our understanding of reality, what he called modern myths. Similarly, Joseph Campbell suggested that myths contain universal patterns of meaning that repeat in new forms throughout human history. From an Islamic perspective, we understand that Allah has created humans with a natural inclination towards storytelling. The Quran itself uses narratives, the stories of the prophets, peace be upon them all, parables, and historical accounts, to convey profound truths. These aren't myths in the sense of being untrue, but they demonstrate the power of narrative to shape understanding and guide behavior. Examples of everyday myth-making. Let's look at some examples of how myth-making happens in our daily lives, particularly through media and pop culture. News stories, celebrity gossip, and viral social media trends often create and reinforce modern myths. Think about concepts like the self-made millionaire, the American dream, or the influencer lifestyle. These narratives shape how people understand success, happiness, and purpose, often in ways that conflict with Islamic values. Have you noticed how advertising creates myths about products? A certain soda supposedly makes you cool or adventurous. A particular car supposedly grants you freedom or status. These aren't just marketing claims, they're modern myths that attach symbolic meaning to material objects. We also construct personal myths about our own lives. Phrases like, "I'm always the outsider," or "I always overcome adversity," become stories we tell ourselves to make sense of our experiences and guide our behavior. Family stories and traditions often become mythologized over time as well, shaping our sense of identity and belonging. And on a larger scale, societies create collective myths about national identity, history, or shared values. Concepts like the land of opportunity or the melting pot are powerful narratives that shape how people understand their place in society. Urban legends and conspiracy theories are also modern myths that spread rapidly, especially in the digital age. The academic perspective. This understanding of everyday myth-making isn't just philosophical speculation, it's supported by research across multiple disciplines. In sociology, scholars like Berger and Luckman argued in The Social Construction of Reality that all reality is socially constructed through shared narratives, essentially everyday myths. In psychology, Jerome Bruner's work on narrative psychology shows that people interpret their lives through stories, which function as personal myths. And in media studies, thinkers like Marshall McLuhan discuss how media shapes collective myths that influence entire societies. As Muslims, we can appreciate these insights while maintaining our understanding that ultimate truth comes from Allah. The Quran reminds us, "We relate to you the best of stories in what we have revealed to you of this Quran." Surah Yusuf 12:3. While human-created myths may contain elements of truth, divine revelation provides the ultimate framework for understanding reality. Why do we create myths? So why do humans seem naturally inclined toward myth-making? There are several reasons worth exploring. First, myths help us make sense of the world, especially when facts are complex or ambiguous. They provide frameworks for understanding that help us navigate life's complexities. Second, myths help individuals and groups define themselves. They answer the question, who am I? Or who are we? And third, shared myths create social cohesion, binding communities together through common understanding. From an Islamic perspective, we might add that humans have a natural inclination, fitra, to seek meaning and purpose. Allah has created us with a desire to understand our place in the universe and our relationship to our Creator. The stories we tell reflect this innate yearning even when they don't explicitly acknowledge it. The Muslim filmmaker's approach to modern myths. So how should we, as Muslim filmmakers, engage with this reality of modern myth-making? First, we need to develop critical awareness of the myths that surround us. What narratives are being promoted in mainstream media? What values do they embody? How do they align with or contradict Islamic principles? By recognizing the mythic structures in contemporary storytelling, we can better understand their power and influence. Second, we can consciously create alternative narratives that reflect Islamic values. Rather than simply rejecting modern myths, we can offer compelling counter-narratives that speak to the same human needs but guide toward truth rather than away from it. For instance, instead of the self-made success myth that centers individual achievement, we might create stories that show success as a blessing from Allah that carries responsibility toward others. Instead of the romantic love conquers all myth, we might portray relationships grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and commitment to Allah. Third, we can draw inspiration from the authentic stories in our tradition. The Quran and Sirah, biography of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, contain powerful narratives that address universal human themes: justice, mercy, perseverance, sacrifice, redemption. These aren't myths in the sense of being fictional, but they function as powerful meaning-making narratives that can inspire and guide. When creating films or other media, consider how you might subvert harmful modern myths by exposing their contradictions or consequences. Reframe universal themes through an Islamic lens. Create new narratives that speak to contemporary issues while reflecting timeless values. Use the power of visual storytelling to make Islamic perspectives accessible and engaging. Conclusion: conscious myth-making. Brothers and sisters, we can't escape the reality that humans are storytelling creatures. We naturally create and consume narratives that help us make sense of our world. As Muslim filmmakers, our challenge isn't to reject this reality, but to engage with it consciously and purposefully. By understanding the power of modern myths, we can create media that speaks to the deep human need for meaning while guiding toward authentic truth. We can craft stories that acknowledge the complexities of contemporary life while offering the wisdom and guidance of our tradition. The world is hungry for meaningful narratives that offer hope, purpose, and connection. As Muslim filmmakers, we have the opportunity to contribute to this conversation in profound ways, drawing from the wellspring of our faith to create stories that illuminate rather than obscure, that elevate rather than degrade. May Allah guide our creative endeavors and purify our intentions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.